Hey guys, Bobgar here. It's wrap up time and it is what went wrong time. We went 1-4. This is the first time actually on this $10 deck series that I haven't posted a positive record. Which I mean is a pretty good streak considering these are $10 decks, and a lot of times you end up against pretty good decks. This time we actually mostly ended up against tier 2 and 3 decks. But yeah, we went 1-4. We actually went something more like 1-6 because I think I played a couple extra games with a different version of the deck. And yeah, this deck, in my practice matches before I started recording, I went 2-1, and I felt pretty good about the deck. It felt fun. It felt like it could do pretty much what it wanted to do, and I was pretty excited about it. But when it came to actually doing the recordings and playing the games, I got creamed. I feel bad for his encyclopedia because I did not do Delver of Secrets justice. I am ashamed, but I think it comes down to two things. One, I didn't play particularly well today. I don't know why. I played some cube matches yesterday with my friends in real life, and I was the same way. I just like kept not thinking about things. I guess I've just been distracted or something. And then also, the deck has an identity problem in my opinion. So I'm gonna go to the next slide and show the deck again. Oh, I need to click. And this will also tell us which ones I liked, what cards I liked in it, which cards I didn't like in it. So I think the biggest problem is these types of decks are really supposed to be tempo decks. And I wanted this to be a tempo deck, but I think there are some things that kept it from being an effective tempo deck. And the big one is Desecration Demon. It's just a little too expensive. A lot of times we had to tap out to get it out, and then they would sneak something into play that would wreck us. And I didn't put an X on it, but the other card that just ended up being really weak for us in this game was Mana Leak. Partly because we weren't a tempo deck. We didn't, a lot of times we didn't really get to use the Mana Leak. People could just play around it because we weren't putting people under enough pressure. Which goes to the next thing. Like this deck, the way we built it here, almost wanted to be too much of a not tempo deck, too much of a control deck, which made Delver kind of not that great in the deck. Yeah, it was good if we drew it turn 1, and we did win a couple games from just drawing Delver early and keeping our opponent's stuff off the board and, you know, countering removal spells, but not a lot. So he just wasn't good in the deck. And Peak, I knew Peak was not great. It's a cantrip, but it's not the best cantrip. It's just, yeah, we needed something in that slot, so we put it in. So yeah, I think I partly built the deck poorly. Another thing I noticed is I ran 20 lands. As you saw in that last match, I cut it down to 18 lands and cut a couple of my slower things, like a copy of Gurmag Angler and a copy of, I think it was Think Twice, and then I put in 4 copies of Asylum Visitor, which I think is the next slide here. And that made the deck a lot better because we could get a lot of our stuff out really fast, especially without the Gurmag Angler in there. And then once we got all our stuff out, the Asylum Visitor would turn on and start doing work potentially, unless they removed it. So I felt like that was a better way to build it, a little bit heavier on the threats. And Asylum Visitor fits really well in the deck too, just because of the madness. If you discard it with Pack Rat and you have 5 mana up, you know, in a control deck, you can be like, oh well, I put down my Asylum Visitor, I'm now empty-handed, and I get a Pack Rat. So it's win-win. So that's pretty sweet synergy. I think that's a good card for the deck. And now I'm going to talk about how I would change the deck. And I would change the deck a lot. So we'll kind of go top to bottom, left to right. I think Snapcaster is an obvious include. It's in most non-budget versions of Delver decks, or certainly in a lot of them. You know, you run a lot of cantrips of various sorts, a lot of cheap interactive spells. Fatal Push would be our best removal. A lot of times we just don't have that much mana early, and we want to be able to tempo them out, so we want to be able to play a lot of spells quickly. And spending 2 mana on removals is a little expensive. And for the most part, our opponents never had things with converted mana cost more than 4. I guess a few times they did, but not super often. So in general, it hits almost everything, so it's good as long as you have ways to trigger Revolt, which in a powered up version of the deck we would. Tasigur, I think if you're running a version that's running Delve cards, Tasigur is very good. I mean, basically you're almost turning the deck into a Grixis Delver. I mean, you could add in red and add in fetch lands for red and do that. And I think that version of the deck is, you know, a relatively competitive deck. Dark Confidant, if you're willing to not go with the Delve cards, becomes very powerful, because other than the Delve cards, our converted mana cost is like all 1 and 2 drops pretty much. So I think that's a pretty sweet card in the deck. Unfortunately, it is very much not budget. Both Snapcaster and Dark Confidant are quite expensive. Remand is not super expensive, but it's too expensive for $10 decks. I think Remand is better than Mana Leak in most cases for us. It cantrips for us. It kind of, you know, it stops things in a more reasonable way than Mana Leak does. Because Mana Leak, they just wait till they have 3 more mana, and then they just, you know, they wait till then to play it, and unless we're super proactive, that's just mostly going to work. The other thing we really could have used, and maybe I should have put at least Duress in the sideboard. My sideboard was a little bit of a mess. I didn't spend enough time on my sideboard this time around. I think Inquisition and Thoughtseize would both be really, really strong cards in the deck. And finally, Liliana. I think she could be a good mid-game kind of finisher. Force your opponent to discard his last few cards, or sack his the 1 or 2 creatures he's managed to stick that you haven't used Fatal Push on. I think she could kind of push the deck over the edge. I don't think you'd want a lot of her, but I think a couple of her could help. And so I built a full version of this deck this time around just because I had time and I wanted to think about it a little bit, like how would I build this deck? I don't know if this deck would be good. I don't have the cards to build it. I don't have anywhere near the cards to build it. I have no Dark Confidence online. I have no Snapcaster Mages online. I have no Lilianas online. So basically, that's $200. I don't have the Thoughtseizes. I have the Remands, but that's about it. So, and I don't have the lands either. I don't have the Polluted Deltas, the Dark Slick Shores, or the Watery Graves. So it's like, basically, I don't have the $300 of this deck online. So it's not what I'm going to be able to actually build and test. But I think something like this could work. I feel like Pack Rat is very strong, especially if you can get yourself card advantage, and I think things like Dark Confidant does a really good job of doing that, as does, you know, Snapcaster Mage and these cantrippy cards, and it's Pack Rat can be played at instant speed, so you can leave up your counter spell, and if they decide not to play anything worth countering, you can just put in a Pack Rat at end of turn, things like that. And then, yeah, I think this would work pretty well. My one concern is that you would just get yourself too low on life quickly. I'm running 4 Polluted Deltas, 4 Dark Slick Shores. That's the come into play untapped as long as you control 3 or less lands, because that's what's most important to us. And 3 Watery Graves. That's the shock land, just so we don't have to take quite as much damage. And then 3 Inquisitions, 2 Thoughtseize. Obviously we go up the Serum Visions and down the Sleight of Hands, because Serum Visions are much better at flipping our Delvers. I feel like this deck would be a lot faster, put on a lot more pressure early. We could Fatal Push them out. We could draw a lot more cards. I feel like this would be much stronger. It still might not be a good deck. I don't even know, but I definitely think it would be better than the version of the deck we did end up running. So yeah, I mean, that's the deck this time around. Sorry it ended up being terrible. That was unintentional. But sometimes that's gonna happen. Sometimes I'm going to make mistakes. So yeah, sorry buddy. I wish I could have done you better. Maybe I'll try the a mono blue version in a couple weeks, or a blue red version if I can find. If anybody has tips for ways to make your mana better with the blue red version, let me know. The problem is you really need untapped lands, and as far as I could see in blue red, it's like getting a playset of any coming to play untapped land was like more than $10 by itself pretty much. So, and you really need to hit, you know, blue or red on turn 1 based on what your hand is. So without fetches and shocks, it just seemed really hard, or fast lands. So yeah, that's the reason I didn't do blue red, which I think is also a much better deck than this. And also for the deck I listed at the end, it's quite possible better than this full Rat Delver list. It's just better to go the normal Grixis Delver kind of list. But anyway, that's the deck. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. Hey guys, Bobgar here. I just really wanted to quickly say, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you enjoy my content in general and would like to see more of it, subscribe. I'll be coming out with content, probably not as frequently as I would like, but I will be coming out with more content in the future. And please leave me comments and let me know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, both in terms of production and in terms of my play and my deck building and all that. Yeah, and again, as I always say, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time.